Some people wait their whole lives for luck.
Wait a second.
And it never comes.
What the? When Camilla said that doorman, she didn't mean Lester.
She meant Randall.
Some people get impatient, and they do what it takes to get some luck for themselves.
Welcome back to my channel, where today we'll be discussing episode 8 of season 5 of Only Murders in the Building, titled Cuckoo Chicks. This episode takes us on a couples therapy session between Charles and Oliver. We learn that Camilla had a thing for Nikki, and before he died, Lester sent out a very important message that may have revealed one of the killers. Let's solve this case and break down this episode, full spoilers ahead. We open with a voiceover by Lorraine talking about Lady Luck as we flash back to 2 years ago in the Velvet Room full of New York elites as we follow Camilla walking towards Nikki. She tells him how the cigars and the men hitting on women have its limits in the Velvet Room as she proposes a once-a-month ladies' night to Nikki, and he accepts, this being her way of planting the seed of her larger plan for the future. Now, immediately you can see the flirtatious vibes between the two, but later on in this episode, the question becomes, was this a one-way street, or were both parties really interested in each other? Back to present day, at Mabel's place, we see her telling Vince the unfortunate news about the casino takeover coming to the building. Thea arrives and invites Mabel as her +1 to a special ladies' night event in the building hosted by Camilla. This obviously being the same event that we just saw her pitch to Nikki at the start of the episode. Now, we don't see V for the rest of this episode, but am I the only one who still has suspicions about her? She can't just be the fun old friend who reunites with Mabel after all these years, right? I don't know, man. I'm still holding on to the idea of what she mentioned about her manager being an assassin a few episodes ago. I just feel like she's going to be way more important in some type of capacity. Now, in the lobby, Oliver and Charles learn from Randall that Camilla now owns 82 of the 165 units in the building, meaning that she's 1 unit away from owning 51% of the building and 1 step closer to her casino. Now, Oliver finds himself in a dilemma because he doesn't want to move now and sell to Camilla, especially having a gun pointed at him in last episode, but if he doesn't sell, he's afraid how Loretta would take the news after getting excited about starting over with Oliver after losing her place in the fire. Now, Mabel shares the news about Ladies' Night, and Charles and Oliver are excited about this because, as they say, ladies love to yap about everything, including boys and bad decisions. So they expect Mabel to get some valuable information from Camilla and even connect with Camilla on a new level and, as they say, a female level. Now at Oliver's, Charles and him continue to give Mabel some terrible advice about the ladies' night as Loretta arrives and she's invited our favorite detective, Williams, whose flight was canceled just like Loretta's. Williams knows a thing or two around a card table and comes up with a plan. She'll make Camilla go on a losing streak, and in doing so, she'll be on a tilt after losing so much, and she'll make bad decisions like talking too much. Now in this moment, this episode gives us some critical Charles Savage deep cuts. We learn that as a kid, Charles helped his mother cheat at card games using magic tricks. Williams instantly connects the dots. Charles's addiction to sexy villains stems from only receiving affection when assisting his cheating mom. Suddenly, his lifelong love of dangerous women makes perfect sense. Traumatic sense. Now, back to Williams' plan, we see that Mabel has the impossible task of smiling naturally, which doesn't come easy to her, as we see Loretta suggest a backup plan, and it's her using her abilities to talk to ghosts, because of course she used to be a medium back in the day, which is obviously news to Oliver. Now, while waiting for her flight, Loretta reveals that she did some research on Camilla. As she says that she's not all the way there, some would even say that she's cuckoo, as she believes she's the reincarnated version of her great-grandmother, who, by the way, is the reason Camilla always wears gloves, because it was her grandmother's favorite accessory. As the mission to save the building is now in motion. Now, later that evening, dressed to the nines, the ladies are ready. But on their way to the ladies' night, they find Lorraine crying. Now we find out Lorraine hasn't been able to sleep since learning that her husband was murdered, as Loretta lets it out of what they're doing for the evening and suggests that Lorraine join them for ladies' night. Lorraine immediately agrees to join them because if Camilla is responsible for the death of her husband, Lorraine wants answers. Now downstairs in the Velvet Room, we see the ladies decide to split up as Williams decides to pull a last-minute audible, changing into a dealer outfit to control the game. As Camilla arrives and the games are on. Now at first, the plan is working. Camilla is actually losing. But the emotions are running too hot. Lorraine, overpowered by grief and rage, loses her composure, showing her hand, literally, as she threatens Camilla. Now Mabel has to escort the furious Lorraine upstairs to cool her down to save their mission from being a total collapse. Now upstairs, a piece of the mystery is brought up as Lorraine wishes that the elevator crank Lester always carried with him was in the case that was made for him, as Mabel takes note of this, which will become important for later in this episode. Now, back in the Velvet Room, Loretta pulls a Detective Williams and makes her own audible as she tells Camilla that Williams is double dealing, which gets her kicked out, leaving Loretta to getting this mission done on her own. Loretta doing this gains Camilla's trust as she offers her a reading to speak to the dead, and it's not her great-grandmother, but instead it's an old romantic relationship. As we get quick flashes of someone cutting the leather on the gaming table with a cleaver, and Camilla hearing the sounds of a martini being shaken as she's thinking about Nikki. Now with the psychic powers of Loretta, we get another flashback with Camilla and Nikki. We see Camilla pitching Nikki on turning the Velvet Room into a new full-scale casino, effectively destroying the competition, which is Bash and Jay's new venture. Now this news gets Nikki upset as Loretta points out the fact that Nikki had to be out of the picture first before anyone else could start their own casino in the city, alluding to someone having to had killed him first. Now Camilla shares her vision with him and wants to partner with Nikki. Now Nikki brings up that the Velvet Room in this casino is his wife family's legacy and he can't just simply put it in someone else's hands, even despite things not being 100% with him and his wife, who he mentions he still loves. Now he doesn't flat out say no in this moment, but he also doesn't say yes, as he tells her that he'll rather speak about this matter later and he walks away. Now clearly that conversation didn't go as Camilla planned, and she might have even became jealous of the fact that he brought up his wife. You would imagine a woman of Camilla's status isn't used to people not immediately falling in line and saying yes to whatever she offers. As we see, after Nikki didn't give her a yes, Camilla set her plans in motion to buying up the units in the building without Nikki's blessing. Meanwhile, the guys are having a men's night. Charles and Oliver are frantically banging on doors trying to save the remaining residents from selling to Camilla. Now, while Charles is still dealing with the fact that his childhood trauma is the root to his romantic relationships with women, we see Oliver seems to be worried that he might have married Loretta without really truly understanding and knowing who she is. Now, they get a text from Randall that Dr. Stanley, the therapist, has sold his unit too. But the deal isn't official until morning, giving them enough time to convince him to reconsider. Now, to help in this process, we see Oliver and Charles agree to let Stanley be their therapist for the night to deal with their recently discovered trauma and anxiety. As the therapy session begins, we see Detective Williams joins them, excited to hear their trauma, in hopes that this will lift her spirits after Loretta hijacked her plans. Now, instead of sitting on the sidelines, we see Detective Williams shares her 2 cents on Charles' issues as he brings up being jealous over Oliver's relationship with Loretta. Now, Oliver mentions that things aren't sunshine and rainbows because he's uncertain about not fully knowing who Loretta is. As these moments of honesty creates a breakthrough for both Charles and Oliver and actually makes Stanley think about his own decision about moving out. Now, Williams gets Stanley to admit that he's afraid and he ultimately reconsiders moving and he wants to stay, yet again proving that Detective Williams is a jack of all trades, solving crimes and people's problems as well, but unfortunately, it's too late. The clock strikes midnight, the deal is sealed, and Camilla officially owns 51% of the building. The casino is coming unless the ladies have had better luck. Now, back to the ladies' night, we see Loretta continues to pry away at Camilla's feelings towards Nikki and how it made her feel after he didn't agree to be her partner of this new casino, and more importantly, setting the stage for Nikki to leaving his wife and to be with her. As this takes us into another flashback where it's the week that Nikki went missing, and we see that he's upset after apparently seeing Sophia with another man having an affair. Now, the Nikki going missing for the week is still unclear, but it would appear that after finding his wife with another man, that led him to going MIA to figuring out his next moves. Now, after the discovery of his wife having an affair, this leads him to joining Camilla in her plans for the casino, as the plan was set. She wanted Nikki to set up a private game with Jay and Bash. So there's our prime suspects being placed in the Velvet Room the night of Lester's death. Now, going back to that flashback scene, to me, it seemed that Camilla 100% had something to do with the alleged affair that Sophia was apparently having. Now, the question is, who was the other guy Nikki saw Sophia with? Now, I don't have a ton of evidence to prove this, but based on the male characters we've met so far that's important to this season, my mind goes to the mayor of New York, Mel Tillman, despite acting like he met Sophia for the first time at the restaurant with Charles a few episodes back. Now, if it's the mayor or someone else entirely, could that person be the owner of the missing finger? I could see a situation in which this mysterious person and Nikki got into a fight, resulting in Nikki using that cleaver that was found in his chest and cutting off that person's finger in a moment of rage and believing that he slept with his wife. Not to get too far ahead, but thinking about next week's penultimate episode. If history repeats itself, we most likely will get the reveal of at least one of our murderers. Last season, around this time, we found out about Dudenoff's death, so sticking with the theme of gambling, my money's on us figuring out how Nikki died, leaving Lester's death for the finale, or it could be the other way around. Now, going back to the conversation in the Velvet Room, we see Camilla mentioning the doorman, but she doesn't go into details as she gets a message that she's now an owner of a casino as she's won. Loretta notices the door to Nikki's old office is open and we see her go inside. Now, knowing what we find out later in this episode, how did Randall and Camilla know each other and was he instructed to do something under her instructions? Now, back with Mabel and Lorraine, who's sharing a joint, we see Mabel finds out the news about Camilla in the building. Mabel's conflicted about what to do next as she feels like she's losing control over everything, as she's now even considering going on a date with Jay, as Lorraine shares her thoughts about the matter.
Try not to worry so much about being in control, because not one of us is. Not the poor wife of the doorman who died, or the richest, most powerful person in all the world, and fighting that, that's where real misery comes from.
Now we see Mabel decides to text Jay, ready to see if maybe there's something there between them. Now, I'll be 100% honest with you all, Mabel and Jay romantic angle kind of feels forced at this point in the season. In what world would Mabel now feel the pressure to go on a date with him after he lied to her multiple times so far this season, and not even including the fact that he may be involved in a murder case in some capacity? Now look, I understand the show loves to pair Mabel up with someone for most of its seasons besides season 4, but this love interest to Jay, while shown in episode 3 of the season with them flirting, but still to me, it's kind of coming out of nowhere and it feels forced because again, we only have 2 episodes left, so where exactly can this romance go? Now, back to the conversation with the characters, Mabel shares their box of clues for Lester and gives it to Lorraine as she takes out his bird whistle and lets out a whistle for Lester. Now, Lorraine doing this triggers a notification on Vince's phone about a sighting of a bird in the courtyard. As we end this episode with Mabel returning back to Oliver's place to share how the night was unsuccessful. But in comes Lady Luck herself and Loretta, the winner of the night, who's gotten information that she's gathered. She shares the insight about the affair Sophia was having the week that Nikki went missing, and the partnership between Camilla and Nikki and how this all connects to Lester's death. But that's not it. Loretta also found the elevator crank with blood on it in Nikki's office, which is now being considered the possible murder weapon. Now, while everyone's excited about Loretta's findings, she says this throwaway line about how Jennifer Aniston, who was at the ladies' night, she passed on the show of being an arsonist. Now, we knew last season about the premise of Loretta's show and how she was dating this fireman and dealing with fire, but it can't be a coincidence that her place was recently destroyed by a fire. Now, I know we all love Loretta, we trust Loretta and whatnot, but did Loretta set her place on fire or did someone else do it? Now, I'm thinking the latter, and as I mentioned in my last breakdown, I think someone did set off that fire, and if this comes to be true, was that sending a message to Loretta similar to what the mysterious person did by poisoning Oliver's dog all the way back in season 1? Now, if this is true, I doubt that it will be answered this season, but I think it's going to be a part of a bigger picture and be a part of the next season's mystery about who this person truly is. Now, Oliver tells Loretta the truth of him not wanting to leave, but it doesn't matter at this point because Camilla has 51% ownership of the building. But Loretta gives him a pick-me-up and tells Oliver that he's going to be the hero at the end of the day and he's going to end up fixing things. Now, our last scene has Lorraine and Vince arriving to tell them about the bird notification that just came in, as Lester's favorite bird has recently appeared in a courtyard, almost like a sign of good luck. The whistle Lorraine sent out activated a camera that was set up by Vince and Lester to capture sightings of their favorite birds, meaning that what happened to Lester that night that he died is on video footage that Bash couldn't have erased. As we look at this footage, and they can't see how Lester fell into the fountain, so that remains a mystery at the moment, but it's obvious that Lester used the whistle to make sure that what happened to him was recorded. But there is more. In our final moments, it appears that the doorman that Camilla was referring to, it wasn't Lester, but instead it was Randall. As we see Randall popping up into the frame and looks around to find Lester in the fountain, and instead of helping him out, we watch as Randall picks up the elevator crank and walks away like nothing happened. As it appears that Randall didn't just find the murder weapon by luck, he created it, or at the very least, he covered up the crime and used the moment to acquire the murder weapon. Now, based on that last scene, it would appear that the Lester die found on the table back in episode 5 was Randall talking about human Lester and not robot Lester. Now look, we're in the fourth quarter of the game and all signs are pointing towards Randall being our prime suspect in Lester's death, but I'm not convinced Randall killed Lester. If you go back and watch that scene, now yes, it's super sus for him to take the crank and not immediately check on Lester, I'll give you that. Also, the motive being set up for him seeing how Lester and Nikki had a thing going, and Lester was making a ton of money and Randall wanted in, but of course Lester wanted him to stay away from Nikki and his businesses to protect him, but maybe Randall didn't see it that way and he got upset and he killed Lester out of jealousy. Now, saying all that, I still don't buy it because it seems too clean, too easy, too simple, and just too boring. To me, the way he walked into frame, his body language didn't scream, I just murdered a guy out of jealousy, or being instructed to stop him and it was an accident type of situation. Again, I know we only have 2 episodes left, but I feel the Randall killing Lester is going to be a major misdirect. But again, there is no excuse for why he took that crank unless he was instructed to take it by someone like Camilla, because as far as we know, he doesn't know about the Velvet Room. So how did that end up in Nikki's office? I think he had to give it to someone who ended up putting it there. But for now, let's just take both of these things that we found out in this episode on face value, that being Randall being the cause of Lester's death and Camilla being the cause of Nikki's death, and both of them being motivated by jealousy. Now, you all know my stance on who I believe killed Lester, and that's either the robot Lester or my AI killer robot Algae theory, but my thoughts on this mystery finger and Nikki's death is a little bit more complicated. Right now, based on this episode, it appears that Camilla set up some affair for Nikki to see firsthand, and that led him to partnering with Camilla, but we know that that didn't end up happening. Now, I would assume that Nikki confronted the man that Sophia was having an affair with in the Velvet Room, and things got heated. One thing led to another, and someone lost a finger. Again, thinking this mystery person could be the mayor, because what other male character who we've met so far could it be? We know it's not Jay because his finger doesn't match up. So again, what male character have we met so far that has a missing finger and would have the power to control the cops besides someone major of importance besides the mayor? So overall, I would say I enjoyed this episode. I really had fun with the ladies' night element they added, and you all know whenever Detective Williams is involved, it's always going to be a good time for me because she's my favorite character. I will say, if I had a criticism, the one thing that I'm struggling with at this point in the season is caring about who killed Nikki, in a sense of I don't really care about Nikki. Like comparing Nikki to Dudnoff. Like obviously we didn't know who the hell Dudnoff was, but we got like a Dudnoff episode and gave us context, and I became someone who cared about what happened to him. It was a pretty emotional episode as well, but as of right now, all we know about Nikki is he seems to be some douchebag who did nefarious things. Either way, I hope that we get some good payoffs in these next 2 episodes. I hope we get a payoff with Charles' side plot of digging deep into his upbringing. And also, the Mabel and Jay stuff doesn't seem natural within a narrative, but we'll see what happens next. Well, there you have it. That will conclude my breakdown of episode 8 of season 5 of Only Murders in the Building. Now, before we wrap up, if you all have made it to this point in the breakdown, I appreciate you all for the continued support. Do me a favor and put in the comments right now, #ladiesnight. So, what did you all think about the episode? Let me know what you all thought about the relationship between Nikki and Camilla, and if she had anything to do with the affair and his death. What do you all think about Randall? Did he kill Lester? Was he instructed to pick up that crank handle? What do you all think about the relationship between Mabel and Jay? Let me know what you all liked, disliked, thoughts, theories, predictions for the weeks ahead in the comments below. Now, if you all enjoyed this week's breakdown, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you're watching this on YouTube, once you hit the like button, there's going to be an option to hit the hype button, which allows this video to perform better on YouTube. Also, do me a favor and share this video to anyone and everyone you know that loves talking about this show just as much as we do. And last but not least, if you all enjoyed yourself, consider sticking around by subscribing to the channel today. Now, if you all are listening to this in podcast form, whether that's on Apple or Spotify, do me a favor, leave your thoughts about this episode in the comments below. Consider following and subscribing to the podcast, and also leave me a review. I would appreciate it. Alrighty, y'all. Don't forget, you all are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on next week's penultimate episode on Only Murders in the Building, Season 5.